Should hear some. Okay, and then Sarah, we can go ahead and let everybody in.
Got it.
Yes.
Hello, welcome everybody.
Old, but not that old.
Going to ask everybody to turn off their microphones. You can leave your cameras on if you wish. But the microphones off would be great, please. And we're just going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming tonight. I know it's late in the year and everybody's kind of counting down the days to the end of the school year. So thank you for attending our last PTA meeting of the year, which is inclusive education at our innovative high schools. Really happy to have leaders from our innovative schools here tonight to present. The first thing I want to do is a couple of introductions. My name is Sue Leusner and I'm the president of Tacoma Special Education PTA. We have a couple of board members present. We have Jenny McKinney, who is our teacher liaison, Sarah Caswell, who is also another teacher liaison, Sarah LeCompte, who is our family and community engagement chair, Virginia Jeffers, who is our secretary, and Kelsey Boyd, who is our treasurer. So with those introductions done, I'm going to turn it over to our presenters, and thank you for reaching out and asking to present to our community tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us. I'll start us out. My name is Brittany Skobel. I'm one of the co-directors at iDEA, and I also coordinate the Next Move internship program for the partner schools and the rest of the district.
And my name is John Ketler. I serve as co-director across all three of the high schools for SOTA, SAMi, and iDEA. And I'll explain a little bit more about my journey in just a minute. So.
Hi, my name is Rachel Skye. I come as I'm also a special ed teacher at iDEA. I am also a parent. One of my sons graduated from SOTA, and I have a special ed son who graduated from SAMi.
And hi, my name is Sarah Caswell, and I'm one of the student service special education teachers at SAMi High School. And I have two kids in the district, but they're at Bernie right now, so they're a little younger.
All right, I think we will start first by hearing from John, and he's just going to share a bit about his journey as a parent and then also with starting SOTA that then turned into SOTA, SAMi, and iDEA.
Great. Well, thank you, Brittany. So as I was saying, as Brittany was just mentioning, so when was it? It was actually started working on the journey of actually starting SOTA. I think it was back in like 1998, 1999, something like that. And, you know, I have a special interest in the work that was happening. And it wasn't just to start an arts high school, but it really was to start a school that was really about full inclusion. So I have a daughter who at the time, and she still does, it's not like it went away, but she has cerebral palsy. And so she had particular challenges and needs, and oftentimes those weren't being met through the system in the way that it is designed, and unfortunately still operates a tremendous amount where they're not necessarily included in everything, or the expectation is they're really part of the community. So in building SOTA and in doing that and in starting it, it was really important that those students and children with IEPs with special needs, that they were fully included within the community. As we're building a community and doing that kind of thing together, having full inclusion where all of them, where we need students with all kinds of abilities and we need them working next to each other and getting to know each other and helping each other. So we're really building a truly inclusive environment where we're learning from each other. Every single student coming to the schools has a tremendous gift, and it's important that those gifts are given the space so they can be shared and they can be recognized what those are. And so that's why it's just, you know, it has been so important over these 22 years now, and then starting with SAMi and then with iDEA to really build communities that are fully inclusive. So we have 4 pillars at the School of the Arts and across the 3 partner schools, which are community, empathy, thinking, and balance. And so it's really, we can talk about community, but it's really important that we're building that, making that happen. We have what are called mentor groups. And so students all across all 4 age groups, sophomore, freshman, junior, seniors are all in those. They're with the same mentor or teacher for the entire 4 years. They meet every Wednesday. They build kind of like a family, a small family within the community of the school, and really learn how to support each other, how to help each other, really learn how they can operate together as a unit. And then as a mentor, really being able to spend time to really find out what that student's strengths are, what are their passions, their interests, what is it they're hoping to do in the future, and then how are they really engaging in a community and participating in community. So some of those things they're sitting on our website. So if you're interested in seeing any of that information, you can see it on the school websites, or we also have a nonprofit. It's called Elements of Education. You can go there and literally all of the various things that we're doing, kind of our philosophy and all of the different things that are happening are kind of spelled out there so that you can look at them. It's the same kind of thing when we talk about empathy. But it's important that we're creating a space where students can really learn what empathy is. So maybe Brittany or Rachel talk a bit more about we have a bridge program, but it really operates through the next move. It's like a practicum. So it's an expectation of every one of our juniors where they serve as basically a bridge within classes, working alongside others. So what we're trying to teach students within community is any one of us are successful, any one of us are able to do things that we're pursuing, whether it be a job or whatever it is. And that's because we've learned what our strengths are, but we've learned how to work with others and we've learned how to support each other so that we can be successful. So we're trying to teach those skills to students so they understand that. So anyway, I'm sure there might be some questions. I'd be happy to answer those, but maybe I can pass it off to Rachel and
Thank you, John.
Share some things.
I do love the pillars. They really helped navigate things. And as my second son went to SOTA, I really saw the pillars develop in him. And my youngest son who went to SAMi, his name is Sewell, he's hearing impaired. And he needed sign language interpreters. And so I felt like watching his older brother navigate his high school experience with community, balance, empathy, and thinking. I wanted my younger son to have that. I felt that in the middle school, elementary and middle school where he was in the public school, that even though he was in gen ed classes, he was still had that stigma of being separate, being different. And in our family, he was part of that community piece of being just with everyone. And so we applied and Sewell got accepted to SAMi, which he has worked with Sarah a long time ago. But he wanted to, he needed a space where he could be himself. He struggled a lot with attention and focus and being calm in the classroom. Studying was not his main priority, but being out at SAMi in the woods and being able to take like an outdoor ed class or having a science class where he could design his experiment of measuring through the woods, it allowed him to get some of those, I guess, wiggles out that he needed to, so that he could focus on the important things of, learning to read and write and math. And so he has graduated from and moved on, and he is successfully employed. And so he is a contributing member of society. Sometimes I worry, as a parent, that you make the right decisions. And so by having Sewell start at SAMi and then they opened iDEA, I had become a special ed teacher during that time. And I applied to iDEA. I was really focused on the whole child, and that experiences that my 2 boys have had at those 2 schools was something that I really felt passionate about. And so that led me here to iDEA, where we work on the whole child, and the mentor groups that the students are a part of helps build that community within, like John was saying. And I remember Sewell was in his mentor group as a freshman. They're sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and they have a year together. And seniors are always focused on moving on to go to college. And Sewell went to visit one of his brothers at WSU, and he saw one of the seniors that was a mentor the year before. And that was a really cool experience for him. It just kind of made his world bigger. And then full inclusion, the world is full inclusion, I guess. So full inclusion is really important to me. And having kids come here and having those experiences and being around other people, we're not segregated by disability or by race or anything out in the real world. And having students go through the bridge program and work with others, kids, so the juniors typically work with in their classes where they have a strength and support those kids. And they really see how working together as a community is really important. And out in the world, my kids, I just really feel that those experiences have given them a leg up on being able to deal with difficult customers or, working with peers that are frustrating, but also, building really strong relationships with the peers that he has. So,
will you share a little bit about what your work looks like, in an inclusive setting? So you push in and co-teach, you also co-plan and really think about how you adapt lessons to meet students' needs. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so every year is a little bit different. This year has been really fun. I've been co-teaching like a financial literacy math class, preparing seniors for their real world. And so we have a planning period and we talk through, we have it's a larger SPED population in that class. And so we do accommodate and adapt the assignment. So we're looking for their engagement. A lot of times too, like when student teachers are planning, they like just to kind of go over the lesson with me. And then we can like find different kind of accommodations or strategies that will help maybe bridge the connection between the teaching and the learning. Specific students, like in their IEP, they need things broken down or they need specific steps. And so I work with teachers one-on-one about making the assignment or making a checklist for a student or simplifying a lesson or providing a different book that is more accessible to a student as needed. So we do kind of a whole class, kind of working with a whole group. So I do go into classes, like a physics class and a math class, and just support in the classroom. The teacher teaches a lesson and we kind of plan. If kids are sometimes really get too far behind, or maybe the concepts are a little bit more advanced, we decide what are the important key elements that we want them to know. So we work with the students, we work with the teachers, communication with parents, all of that. We're a team, and that's how we work with the whole child, and mentors are also included in those conversations a lot of times. Yeah.
Thanks, Rachel. Sarah, let's turn it over to you. Can you share a little bit about your role at SAMi and why you have loved teaching at SAMi specifically, but also in an inclusive environment?
Hi, everybody. So I'm one of the special education teachers at SAMi, and I've been there for, oh gosh, I can't remember. I think I've been there for 6 years now, and this is my 300th year of teaching. I day to day at SAMi, what it looks like is I've embedded with the math department, and so I co-teach Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry. Then have a little bit of English and a little bit of chemistry here and there sprinkled in. And so I get to work closely with our math department and work on modifying sometimes lessons, looking at the approach we're doing in the classroom, looking at the materials we might need, looking at the products that the students are working to create, and kind of making sure that we can include all skill levels and all kind of entry points for those kids. And my teaching partner pushes into the English classes right now. So that's how we've sort of set it up. So we're hitting those two main academic areas. And then we spend our time making sure we're educating our gen ed teachers about the accommodations that our students need. Kind of just, it's almost that constant communication from back and forth to say, okay, this student may need this, or have you tried this? I've used this strategy or tool in the past. So working with our Gen Ed teacher team, and then also working with our students so that they understand their accommodations and what they need. And so we gradually build up that self-advocacy. So that's a little bit about kind of what my day-to-day looks like. And then I've taught, so I've always been in education. I've always been a special education teacher. And I've taught self-contained classes. I've been in co-teaching situations. SAMi is my first full inclusion program where all of our students come in and they are 100% in the general education classroom. We don't do pull-out services or our self-contained classroom. For me, I love watching our students come in, and it is a challenge. And sometimes it's a challenge also to wrap your head around. Like our students, we care for them and we want the best for them. We also have that need to protect them. And then we say, hey, now you're in gen ed classes 100% of your day. Here you go, right? You don't have, you may not always see me in your classroom. You may not always see Miss Middleton in your classroom. It's the first place I've worked where I don't have a teacher saying, well, how can I teach this student if they have an intellectual disability? How will I teach them this? It's what can I do so that this student is part of our community? And that has been such a game changer for me. It's the first time where my kids are part of the community, and they're not just my kids, they're all of our students. And that's pretty amazing. Is it challenging some days? Yes. Do we have to get creative some days? 100%. But I love seeing my students who, sometimes they come from just seeing them grow and seeing them watch themselves be a part of this community, and they're not different and they're not made to feel ashamed. They're part of every day. I love mentor group, where our students, a lot of times our students come in with those needs, those social and emotional needs or adaptive or behavior needs, where they might be taught in those small settings or pull-out settings. And in mentor group, they do that. I like to call it in the wild. So they're in there and they're learning it. And so, and again, I'll talk about a student I have right now who their expressive language is not always, it's delayed. And watching them from September to now. And so every day people are asking them how they're doing. What are you doing? We're getting those questions. And I've seen the change from in September sort of echoing me and what I'm saying, or what the question that was being asked, to giving responses that they are making sense of what's happening, and they're able to strengthen that communication. And that's like, I wish I had better words for you, but it feels amazing. So I'm gonna ramble. I'm sorry, Brittany.
I just think one of the really incredible things is when you have a mentor group like that and they really become part of a community, is that they're not seen as students with disabilities. They're seen as actually part of a community. And oftentimes, because in a lot of schools where you don't have full inclusion and where they're in a particular classroom and they're all together, they kind of, and then they become very dependent upon whoever the teacher is and whatever the structure and the way that it's set up. Here, they're really moving throughout the entire community, just like the rest of the students. They're forming friendships. They're really spending time with other students. I know for my daughter is in a wheelchair. So she was at SOTA. So she's moving throughout the entire city, learning how to get on the light rail, learning how to take the light rail, go from building to building, be able to make those decisions, being with other students that then are walking along with her, and understanding some of the challenges of just being in a wheelchair and what that's like. And so it's so informative, not just for for like someone like my daughter, but it's also very informative for students to be participating and being part of that. Then as they grow up to be adults, or they have positions where maybe they're working for a city or they're doing any of that kind of thing, they have a certain, sensitivity to the fact of designing things for individuals who are in wheelchairs, or what are some of the challenges they face, and how do we remove those barriers so that we can create as much access as possible. And so I just, it's just so important that we're creating an environment where students can make friends, they can feel like they're really part of something, and not always feel like there's something that has to be fixed.
And I'm going to add to, I hear, and I get excited too when we get students coming in, and we over time we see the growth. And one thing, it's not 100% across the board, but I have seen students come in with an evaluation from the school psychologist, and they're reading like at a 3rd or 4th grade level, and then by the time they're a senior, they're like at grade level or almost at grade level, and they've made tremendous amount of gains. They're not pulled out and into a different class and doing this over here. They're with their gen ed peers doing the same thing, but it's modified so that they're having that same success. They're talking with gen ed kids about the book that they're reading. And so they're having real conversation that's meaningful and everybody can have it. And so I just feel that the connection that kids make in this full inclusion model is just the growth is outstanding.
One of the things that our team across the 3 schools works, they do a lot of co-teaching, like Sarah and Rachel talked about, and kind of coordinating access for students, whether that's through planning with teachers or working inside classrooms, but also helping facilitate those connections with their peers. And so John mentioned the Bridge program, but I was wondering just kind of if you guys could share some of those experiences that you've had watching students make connections with each other, and how as teachers at the schools, we've helped facilitate that, what that looks like from your perspective.
Do you want to go, Sarah?
I think that's part of having students support each other. It's definitely part of our culture, and it's the expectation. It's also, again, I think it's helpful for all of our students, not just our students who need the support. I have students who, I have certain teachers that are like, I need this person to be my bridge. They get me. And they might be my student with an IEP who might not be traditionally successful with English and math, right? Like academic wise, they're doing a great job. But writing maybe a 5-page essay on a, literary analysis is not going to be their jam, but they walk into that classroom and they organize that teacher and they know what's going on, and that is their strength. And we've watched that success happen, and they're able to kind of find leadership in that while maybe supporting a teacher or their peers in that classroom. And then I have, as we select our bridges and our juniors go through Next Move internship, we have students who are coming into a classroom and are just helping, I'm losing my place because I'm going to ramble again because I'm feeling good about this, is that they're there supporting their community, helping maybe students find a little bit of that access, working with the teacher so that the teacher has time to really provide some more support to a student who needs that extra time and maybe accommodation. And so it's been a really good way, I think, for students on both sides of that IEP to learn about each other and also just function as a community. And it doesn't have to be about you're different or anything like that. They're strengthening our community. And it's
So one of my favorite stories is having a student bridge for another student, and they're just really stressed out about it. And you just have to greet them and say hello and ask them about themselves. And they come back and they tell me these really cool things that they've learned about the student that they're bridging for. And that relationship building builds their confidence and being able to meet and work with new people. And it is fun to watch kids that are academically challenged to be able to, or struggle with those social interactions, but to be able to go into like our wood shop and be able to organize it, keep things clean, support students to using saws that are nervous, so that more of that hands-on piece. There's just a lot of great opportunities for students to build success, but also to build their resume, which they're going to move on to doing in the internship program.
That's a great segue.
Thank you.
So before we wrap up and go through some of the questions in the chat, we'll end by talking about next move. We've mentioned it a couple times, but that's our internship program that all of our juniors across the 3 schools go through. They go through a class called Intro to Internship in the fall semester, where they are writing resumes and cover letters. They're learning interviewing skills, and really exploring their career interests, building their skills, exploring their passions. And then we get them out into classrooms on campus, working alongside teachers on projects, supporting other students, but really just wanting them to have that first professional experience on campus. And then our goal is for students in the spring semester is that they're getting out into the community. So we've got that next step for them where they're doing an internship. It might be at a local business or an organization, or it might be at an elementary school, depending on a student's interests or passions. And so we really want all students to have that experience in their junior year, so that they can be thinking about what their next step is and how they're preparing for it while they're in high school. And for some students, they might not be ready in their junior year. And so we then, maybe that's in their senior year. And so we're just really flexible in meeting students where they're at and helping them get ready. So I don't know, Sarah, if you or Rachel, you want to add anything else about the work that you've done partnering with the Next Move team at your school?
Do you want to go first, Rachel?
Okay. I love the Next Move internship program. It really does help kids transition into the work world, and it gives them a new lens to look at. And so the first semester, when they're doing the intro to internship and they're bridging, they're really nervous, and they're learning a lot about themselves. And then the next semester, when they go out, they get to experience those things that they've been practicing. On the special ed note, though, not everybody's at the same place. And so I do value that all kids in 11th grade go through the internship program, but each student is individualized based on their need and what their next step is. And then with the support of our admin, we're able to work to get them another internship their senior year, so that they have the next step as they need as they're growing and transitioning.
Yeah, I like to tell the story of in the past, one of our juniors, really quiet, didn't like a lot of interaction, was not a person that would really like volunteer for anything or self-advocate. And they really enjoyed working with young kids, and they were wonderful with it. And so we tried, their internship was at an elementary school. And so all of those skills that it takes to talk to, and again, with support from the Next Move folks, and then the support from the school staff and mentor and the special ed teachers, kind of working out how to interact with your supervisor, or what to do if that person isn't there one day. Who do you talk to in that school? Learning public transportation. That was a fun afternoon where maybe my student took the bus going the wrong direction, and between parent on the cell phone, a teacher was down there, I was on the cell phone, contacting the person, he solved his problem, he turned it around, and he made it to his internship. So it's all this, and now he was on, this is wild, I'm trying to think. He had door-to-door transportation, and by his senior year, he is taking the city bus to and from. And so like all those experiences that we in the past that I've tried to recreate within the school model and like a self-contained model, all of those things are happening for every student. It's not just my student, you know, with a disability that needs to learn to take public transit. It's also that student without a disability who doesn't know how to take public transit. And so, and those kids are helping each other. So we have the buddy system or we do this. And so that is a place where Next Move really naturally sort of helps our students that need those extra skill support. Again, we have to get creative. We gotta, you know, it can be hard to kind of let them sort of fly the coop and navigate for themselves, but it's with support, it's really cool. So I love Next Move.
So I think one of the great things is there's multiple layers that are making full inclusion work. So it's not 7 special education teachers that are, you know, while they may be facilitating and help kind of steering it, we have 100 teachers that are working with every one of these students. And that's what they're doing. And we don't see them as somebody else's kids. They're all ours. We're all working together. They're in a mentor group where they're with a mentor, they're with kind of their smaller family, and they're getting support there. Then they have bridges, they're getting the experience of Next Move, all those things that are kind of these steps and everything that's built into a culture so that full inclusion actually does work and can happen, and it happens at a high level. So it's super exciting. And, you know, right now, I believe it's about 15% of our population are students with IEPs across the 3 high schools.
Yeah, I think just to reinforce that, like it's really a foundational part of our schools. And like John mentioned, it's a whole team of people beyond just our special education teachers. And it's a belief system that we all have, and all of our teachers that come here that choose to work at SOTA, SAMi, and iDEA are choosing to be part of an inclusive school. We want students and families to have the opportunity to choose what's best for them. And so we believe that this is one choice that should be available to students. And we want teachers to be really thoughtful of that they're committing to being part of this work together.
So, and, you know, they meet in PLC. So at each one of the schools, they have PLCs where the student services staff are getting together, but then once a month, all 3 of the schools, the student services staff gets together. They're talking about different things and how do they solve problems or work together, or how are we continuing to really make sure that we're doing full inclusion and doing it at the highest level. And involved in all of those as well are the co-directors. So in a traditional school, they would be, you know, either the principal or vice principal, or actually it's both of them that would be involved in these conversations and part of it. So it's the entire team from the top down, from the bottom up. Everybody's working together to really make it happen.
Sarah, would you be willing to read the questions in the chat?
Because we can't see it.
Oh, Sarah Lecomte is going to read those.
Okay. Oh, perfect.
She's ready. You can start at the very first one. Somebody wrote a question really early on.
Yeah. The very first
Okay.
one that we have is from Leah. I am just wondering how inclusion is at SOTA. My child was accepted, and I just want to know if there is staff with the inclusion classes in the building all day. And if not, what is expected of their transitions to any other location outside of the school? Will they be with staff? My child does go to general education classes, but I am just wondering what to expect for myself, but also to prepare him as well.
Great question. Yeah, we have 2 special education teachers at SOTA, and their locations vary. So SOTA is downtown and has about 4 different locations that students are moving in between, and our teachers are also in between those locations. Transitioning to a school where you're traveling maybe on the link or maybe by foot from building to building can be a little tricky for students. And so, but it's tricky for all students. So the SOTA staff really works to make sure that students are buddied up And some students need to have a staff member walk with them until they get it. Other students just need a student buddy, but we always encourage students to walk in with a partner or in a group as they're moving from building to building.
So one of the things we do too, to help mitigate that a bit, when they're coming in their 9th grade year, we have what are called first look. So we have those that are happening literally once a month here until school starts. So they'll have one in June. They'll have one, they probably won't have one in July, but they'll have another one in August. And so they're getting a chance to meet their mentor, meet some of the upperclassmen, that kind of thing. So there's maybe somebody they're buddied up with so that they have a friend and they're not so nervous. And then we start school with we go to camp as an entire school. And the reason for doing that is so we're spending time, you're with your mentor group the entire time that you're there. It's really learning about the culture, the way it operates. It's really creating these partners, these friends as you're part of that mentor group. So then as you get back to school and I'm starting to move, you have people that can support you and help you through that process. So you don't feel like you're all on your own and it's this big scary thing. So.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. The next question is, what if kids can't handle certain content like math?
Does that mean they don't do math at all? Or is it they don't like math? Or so many students struggle with math and maybe don't like math. And so there are times that they'll work with a bridge. I've been in classrooms. A lot of our math classes are project-based. And so they're being able to apply a project, apply it to an actual hands-on activity. They also work in groups. So there's just a lot of entry points that they do. Math does build on itself, so it does make it a lot more complicated when you don't have the specific skill set. And that's sometimes where I can pull the prior skill. And so they're still doing the same kind of content, it's just at a different level. So they can still participate in the activity or the experience, or we scaffold it a little bit stronger.
I'm sure Sarah wants to jump in too.
Yeah.
If we have time, I don't want to, no, yeah, I echo what Rachel said. So we do have students that are coming on all different academic levels. And so what we do is we work with them where they're at. So we might be in an Algebra 1 class learning how to solve linear equations, right? And so what, if I'm breaking it down to the most basic is, I'm thinking about, I've got a number, I've got a missing number, I got to figure out, I got a mystery number, right? How are we going to do that? And if in this problem, I've got addition, I work backwards by using subtraction. And so we follow, a set of steps and a pattern, and students are able to find that success. Working in a group, we might be collecting data. I think they did a project where SAMi's notorious for not having any cell service, at least for adults. I don't know, kids always can use their cell phones. And so we literally mapped out the zoo and had kids walk in each sector. How many bars do you have on your cell phone, right? And that's something that's very accessible for any student. Even with, navigating the zoo, it's all accessible physically. And then taking data is something that any student can do, even if they need a maximum of support. So things like that.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. Next one is from Maddie. My kiddo had a really hard time navigating selective mutism. Have you all supported students with SM? I often worry because she's had a hard time advocating for herself and has found herself in trouble for suffering from the impact of her issue. I'm hoping SOTA will be different.
Well, we're not at SOTA, but with technology, it's been really nice. There's opportunities for students to type or to express themselves. We really work hard to build relationships with kids, and so that they have, even if I need to go and pull a kid out and just check in with them in the hall and kind of give them that space so they have the opportunity to share what they need to. There are times I've had to rely on parents for that communication, just because of the selective mutism that they have. So it's also a process, right? And so we start at square one, and by the time we get to their senior year, it looks different. Or there's strategies in place that we've worked together with as a team to support that student, so when they go to their job, that they will have success or have an access to communicate.
I think one of the things that's important too, the structure is very different the way the school day looks. So on any given day, they're taking 4 classes. Between classes, they typically, at SOTA and SAMi, they'll have 15 to 20 minutes between classes because they're moving between buildings and doing that kind of thing. So it's very different than having 3 minutes and the bell rings to get to the next class. Lunch is literally 45 minutes to 50 minutes in length, so it's much longer, that kind of thing. So it creates some of those spaces where if you need to have a conversation or you need some of that support, or you need to be able to sit down and maybe talk with a friend, or it's talking with a teacher or someone being able to meet with you, you have the ability to have that happen. It's not this rush to get to the next class because the bell's going to ring.
I would also say that our teams at all 3 of the schools are creative problem solvers. They are committed to kind of helping students discover their skills and their passions and their interests, and meeting them where they're at. So if a student comes in with something that's a challenge for them, they're really going to work with them to help figure that out. And they're committed to the long game here. So it's not, if a student isn't, maybe the goal is by their senior year or their junior year that they're engaging with their peers, and that those changes don't happen overnight. So.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That is actually all the questions that are in the chat. Brittany, thank you for answering that very last one and providing the link that it is not too late to apply to IDEA. I will pass.
I have a question for somebody who couldn't attend tonight. And she might have already reached out to you, Sarah Caswell, I'm not sure, but there's a parent who has a student in a wheelchair and is wondering about accessibility on the SAMi campus.
So we have the portables location is accessible along the boardwalk. We have accommodated students who used crutches and I believe had a wheelchair in the past. And so those areas are accessible. We also have a ramp up to the bathrooms at the portables. The ELC is elevator accessible. And then from the zoo entrance, there's also that accessible ramp. The zoo is also fully accessible. Pagoda. The Pagoda classroom has an elevator. Yes, we have an elevator at the Pagoda, or there's a stairway elevator, I believe. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's also the really great thing is having someone in a wheelchair, they definitely can maneuver the trails. There's certain trails that are worked, there's certain ones that won't, but then it gives the opportunity for a class, once again, to understand some of the challenges, to work together as a team, to help solve those kind of things and do that kind of thing. They literally can get to all the spaces. We have buses that can move them throughout the entire 720 acres. So
and we just have to, we do have a yellow shuttle bus that moves students between locations, those that need are not able to navigate the trail. And then if that student, depending on the type of wheelchair they use, if some wheelchairs are made for the trails, which is kind of awesome. But we could also look at making sure one of those yellow shuttles is a lift bus as well. And I would just have to, I think, talk to transportation about that.
Well, what I'm getting is that if there's ever an obstacle for any students, your mindset is not that won't work, but how are we going to make that work?
right.
Which is just so refreshing. It's just great. I think somebody wrote, there's a couple more comments. Somebody wrote, are these schools more for special needs kids?
No. I just want to add, my son went to SOTA and he's a gen ed kid. He just graduated last year from WSU with his engineering degree. He's never been on an IEP. But he definitely understands what learning is by having a younger brother who was deaf. And then by going to SOTA and being part of a mentor group community and a bigger community, he had so much access. He was a music major. He liked sound. He took classes from adjuncts, and the adjuncts are professionals in their field that come in to teach classes. He learned a tremendous amount. By the time he went to graduate, he was able to get a really well-paying job. He was able to be a part of a union. He's able to utilize those resources now if he needs to, just to make more money. It's for all kids. Just we were part of the special ed team for this special ed PTA, so that's why we're talking to me mostly special ed.
Our goal is for all students. We have students that, yearly that are going off to Columbia, to Yale, to Stanford, to, all of the best universities in the country, as well as they're going to TCC, or they're moving into, internships that are turning into apprenticeships that are turning into jobs. So our goal is to make every student college ready, but to really help every student find what is the next best step for them based upon their passion and their interest, not just based upon the particular path that any one of us happen to have taken.
So what if there are parents watching now or will watch the recording who would like to get more information or have a contact? What's the best thing for them to do if they haven't spoken with anyone from either any of these schools?
They should text Brittany Skobel.
Give her a cell phone number.
So,
I'll put my email in the chat, and
Okay.
and if anyone would like to follow up, we can.
Okay, and I'll include that on our website when I post the recording there, probably tomorrow. So
I had one question. If I
Go ahead.
could, sorry.
Yeah.
So my question is about the moving around piece too. A lot of how do I ask this? How do you protect the kiddos from situations of safety when it comes to the environments these schools are in? Like, for example, with SOTA being all downtown, like homeless and situations like that they might not have experience with, or people at SAMi that, you don't know the history of the people that are actually in the zoo, and our kiddos tend to have poor judgment in those situations sometimes.
well, I mean, the really important thing is they're moving together. It's not like one student off by themselves and they're navigating the city, doing that kind of thing. They're actually together. So that's one of the things that we talk about a lot, like a mentor group is really, so there's 3, 4, 8 of them that are walking together, whether it's through the city or it's through the park, that kind of thing. So we really don't want students traveling alone. That's why actually at SAMi, we do have, 2 of our school buses that every time there's passing, they're moving through the park, because right now it's very light out, that kind of thing. Obviously in the fall, it gets a little darker. And so for safety, we want them really taking the bus and doing that at particular times of the year. But it's having them, they're learning how to be safe, how to be with others, how to depend upon each other, and how to do that kind of thing. So the city is very safe downtown. We don't have a lot of issues at all, and it's really because they've learned how to operate in community and how to work together.
And is it okay if I add a little bit to that too?
Oh, of course, Sarah.
Yeah, so we we definitely, the first looks are great for getting kids like understanding where things are in the park. We have a fantastic safety agent who and I'll speak for SAMi, but all of our kids have his school cell phone on the back of their ID cards. If they get lost in the woods, they call him, and we come find them. We also, like I said, we always use the buddy system. We have a really good, with our students that we know are going to need support navigating. we're in communication with our teachers, like, hey, this kid needs to be, they're here today. If they don't show up in your class, I need you to either text me or email me right away. And then the other thing I've done in the past, because yeah, sometimes our students don't always make the best decisions, and sometimes they they're not reading the social cues. And so I have at times had to educate our zoo staff, and we've luckily, like, we work with great Metro Parks partners and zoo staff that I might say, hey, you're going to see my friend here, and they may ask you a lot of questions about the budgies, and it's okay to say, you know what, Miss Caswell isn't here with you. It's time for you to go back to class. And we've had a lot of success with that. We've had a lot of learning for our students who are growing. It's a great, I mean, I love it when you can have those boundary talks like in real time. So if I'm walking around the zoo with a class and my student is kind of, we're just walking up to people with strollers and having a chat with them, and I say, you know what, we're going to step back and we're going to talk this through, and we can physically show, this is how close you can be to someone. This is how you don't want to be right up in someone's face. And so learning those things in real time has been really useful.
And it's the same kind of thing down at SOTA. I mean, we work with we have the, security group that is at the University of Washington down on their campus at the Washington State History Museum. There's the downtown patrol that are on bicycles, that kind of thing. We have 2 of our own, which are security liaisons that are constantly going into the businesses and talking to them, and they know who our kids are. And so we're working together as an entire community so that people are aware, they know who the kids are, where they're going, what they're doing. So if anyone needs help or anything happens, we're aware of it right away so we can work with students.
I think we have a nice a comment. My child attends SOTA and has an IEP. They have become very competent at navigating the city and the various situations that occur in cities. We are frank about when to cross the street and when to seek shelter. It really hasn't been an issue. And 3 years in, they have fantastic street sense.
Awesome.
So that's great to hear. Okay. Well, if we don't have any more questions, does anybody have any more questions before we wrap up?
I'm just wondering, so my son's IEP, I feel like it's probably more geared to our traditional high school. Should I meet with his teacher to revamp it? Because it's not up for renewal until October, or should I just wait? I feel like it probably won't matter, but like my biggest thing is honestly him navigating the community, which I love that you guys are teaching that because it's a need. But I'm just wondering if like I should meet sooner, or if I should contact his current teacher now and just bring up my concerns with her, so maybe we can alter his IEP, or what do you guys suggest?
Leah, is he attending the first looks?
Yes, I got an email from it a while ago, and I was actually speaking to a previous student that he knows that still goes to SOTA, speaking to the mom. She definitely suggested it, and she's like, he'll be fine, easing my mind. But I feel like maybe that will I just want to prep him, and just make sure that I just talked to him, he was like, oh, okay. So I just want to make sure if I should update it or not. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I and Sarah can speak next. I don't really think like an IEP needs to be updated, but I do feel like as a parent, it's really hard to let go. And the transition from middle school to high school is hard. And, my son couldn't hear and he had to ride the bus because I worked. And so it is a really stressful situation. And so I think just doing what you can to prepare and go over routines, and we went to find buildings, we walked the zoo area, we walked with my other son who's gen ed, we walked downtown so that we could just navigate and he could have those experiences. But as a special ed teacher, I do like to hear from parents and hear what your concerns are. And then we need to kind of get started and see kind of how it goes, what is happening, what are the areas that are flowing and where the bumps are. So because we want the best for your student, and we have to work as a team to figure that out.
Right. Okay, thank you.
And camp is a big deal too. Being at camp, that will really help build those relationships.
And I would encourage you to really reach out to their mentor, and really have a conversation with the mentor and explain some of your concerns and that kind of thing too, so that they're aware of that and they're communicating with you on a regular basis.
And I think also, as far as the IEP goes, if some things need to be changed in the fall, we need to
Yeah.
do an amendment. That's something that we can do that way. When it's being amended, it's actually aligned with what the program looks like at if it's SOTA or SAMi or IDEA. So the team, our team would help you with that.
For sure.
Thank you.
We have another nice comment in the chat that I just want to read. Thank you for this session. My son really wants to go to IDEA. I've been nervous about full inclusion, but feel like I can fully support now without worry.
Good.
So that's great. Well, thank you, everybody. And thank you for presenting this information to us. My only question would be, can we have innovative middle schools and elementary schools? I mean, it's just such a great model. But I love that our students have that opportunity in high school. It's just amazing. So thank you for everything you do and in supporting our students. And thank you for speaking with our PTA tonight.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.